My son denied me before his coworkers and called me a beggar. One thing he never knew was that I am the CEO and the rightful owner of the company he works for. The company that gave him the pride and ego to mingle among the rich and forget his own family. What I did to him, he never expected his mother could have such a heart. I never thought my own son would be the one to make me feel invisible. I'll tell you how it happened. You deserve to know, because people think the wounds inflicted by family heal easier. They don't. They cut deeper and they scar darker. It was a Saturday in early March, the kind where winter hasn't quite let go and the air smells faintly of thawing earth. I drove into the city to surprise my son, Josh, at the new apartment he'd just moved into. He hadn't given me the address. I found it through sheer persistence, a trickle of information gathered from an offhand comment and some subtle prying. I carried a basket, homemade lasagna, garlic bread wrapped in foil, and a bottle of red wine I knew he liked, but could never afford. Mothers do that. We carry pieces of home in our hands, thinking food will fix what words cannot. I spotted him before he saw me. He was walking down the airport after his vacation abroad with two of his friends, young men in slim-cut suits, their hair slicked, their laughter sharp. They looked like they belonged in glossy ads, untouchable, curated, proud. I remembered weeks ago when I had arranged this vacation for him because he is my son, whom I love so much. I called out, "Josh, honey!" He turned. Our eyes met. And in that split second, I saw it. The hesitation, the calculation, the shame. "Who's that?" one of his friends asked. Josh's jaw tightened. His voice, steady, dismissive, cut through the cold air. Just some beggar, always bothering people. My heart stopped. The basket slipped from my hand and the wine shattered across the pavement, bleeding into the cracks like a wound that wouldn't clot. He walked past me, didn't even flinch, didn't even whisper sorry. And I stood there like a ghost who just realized she was dead. Is this really the son I had raised and given everything to make his life better? Take aside he is my son, he is just like every other employee I can just fire, but I won't do that. I was going to teach him a very big lesson. That night, I sat in my office at Harrington Dynamics, the company I had built from the ground up, with grit and sleepless nights, a company that had clawed its way into the Fortune 500 under my leadership. I sat behind my desk, the city skyline glittering behind me, and thought about the irony. My son worked here. Not in some lofty position, no, he was a mid-level analyst in one of our development teams. I'd made sure of that. I'd pulled strings quietly, making sure he'd get in without him ever realizing who had signed the invisible permission slip. To him, Harrington Dynamics was his proving ground, his chance to rise in the world. To me, it was my empire, and the emperor had just been spat on by her heir. I pressed my fingers against my temples. The lasagna was still in the basket, sitting in my car, probably congealed and cold. My son had denied me in public, and something in me, something I didn't know I still had, shifted. It wasn't just pain, it was fury. And it whispered to me, he will learn who I am, but not until it's too late. It started small. A project Josh had been working on after weeks of his sweat poured into it. I suddenly gave the order to reassign it to someone else. He wasn't given a reason, just an email with my approval at the bottom, though he didn't know my signature was there. Then came the late nights. His supervisor, following quiet orders from me, began piling on impossible deadlines, reports that had to be redone 3-4 times, presentations where his slides would mysteriously go missing minutes before the meeting. I watched from behind the tinted glass of the executive boardroom as he stumbled through excuses, his face burning red. His colleagues whispered that he wasn't cut out for corporate life, that maybe he'd gotten the job through luck, not merit. Each time, I felt a pang, a mother's instinct to rush in, to fix, to shield. But I silenced it. He had chosen shame over me. He had looked at me like I was nothing, so I made him taste nothingness. The first real break came 3 months later. I was walking through the employee cafe, disguised in the anonymity of a simple blouse and slacks, no makeup, hair pulled back. To them, I was just another middle-aged staffer, someone from HR maybe. They didn't know I was their CEO. Josh sat in the corner alone, his tie loosened, his eyes hollow. He was stirring cold coffee without drinking it. I slid into the booth behind him, my ears sharp. His friends, those same men who had laughed with him months ago, walked past, their voices carrying. Man, Josh is tanking hard. You hear they're thinking of letting him go? And yeah, shame. Guy looked like he had promise. Josh didn't turn. He didn't even speak. He just sat there, his hand trembling against the cup. And in that moment, I saw the little boy again. The one who used to hide under the covers during thunderstorms, whispering, "Don't leave me, Mom." But he had left me, and so I stayed silent. Severally, he has written to my desk explaining the maltreatment he receives from his coworker, but he never knew the actions are coming from my desk correctly. During the quarterly all-staff meeting, the one where every employee filled the auditorium and waited for the CEO to step on stage, I'd kept my identity a closely guarded secret. Only the board knew the truth. It allowed me to walk the halls unseen, to feel the pulse of my company without the filter of fear. But that day, when I walked onto the stage in my tailored navy suit, the spotlight catching the streak of silver in my hair, the room gasped. I began my speech about growth, innovation, resilience. My voice was steady, commanding, but my eyes, oh my eyes, found Josh in the crowd. He froze. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Recognition crashed into him like a wave, and his face drained of color. The mother he had denied, the woman he had dismissed, the CEO of the empire he worked for. Me. I didn't falter. Not once. I let the words roll, each one deliberate, while he sat there unraveling. And when the applause thundered through the hall, his hands remained limp in his lap. But it's already too late. Afterwards, he came to my office. I knew he would. He stood there in the doorway, eyes red, shoulders slumped. For the first time in years, he looked small to me. He whispered, "Mom, I didn't know. I didn't." I held up a hand. "Don't. Please, I was stupid. I was embarrassed. His voice cracked. "I'm sorry." Sorry. The word that had been denied to me when he'd walked past me on that cold March day. The word that would never glue the pieces back together. I looked at him, my own flesh and blood, and felt the weight of decades between us. The sacrifices, the loneliness, the empire I'd built while he was too blind to see me. And I said, softly, "It's too late." His knees buckled as if the words were physical blows. You think that was the end? That he walked away and I closed the chapter? No. Life is never that clean. I didn't fire him. I didn't banish him. That would have been mercy. Instead, I let him stay. I let him swim in the poisoned waters of his own shame, every promotion slipping through his fingers, every colleague looking at him with pity. And yet, here's the part no one knows. I also shielded him, quietly. I made sure he wasn't destroyed completely, that he still drew a paycheck, still had a desk to sit at. I didn't save him from pain, but I saved him from ruin. Because here's the truth,
I wanted him to suffer, yes, but I also wanted him alive, to watch, to learn, to carry the weight. That's the ambiguity of a mother's heart. We destroy, but we also protect. The ending that isn't an ending. Now when I walk through the halls at Harrington Dynamics, employees straighten in their chairs, whispers ripple in my wake. I am seen. I am respected. And Josh, he lowers his head when we pass. Sometimes he tries again, a good morning, Mom, slipping out, fragile as glass. Sometimes he lingers by my car, hoping I'll offer him a ride. Sometimes he leaves notes on my desk, apologies written in ink that never dries enough to blot out the memory. I don't respond, but I don't throw the notes away either. They sit in my drawer, folded, waiting. For what? I don't know.
Maybe one day I'll forgive him. Maybe one day I won't. For now, I let him live in the shadow of me, the mother he cast aside, the CEO he never saw coming. And every night, when the office is empty and the city hums beyond the glass, I whisper into the silence, "You see me now, Josh. You'll always see me."